So we've got Black Widow, Shang Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man: No Way Home, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Thor. So 6 films that have now come out. We're not going to do the Marvel series. We're not going to do the series or anything like that. But just talking the movies that came out, these 6 films. Last place, it's a pretty easy one. It's Eternals. It was so bad. It was so forgettable. I was just like, I'm just sad. I'm sad, Marvel, that you did this to me, that you made me watch this film, because it was not good. So I'm going to, it's an easy one. This is the easiest thing on here, second easiest thing for me to place on here, and that is Eternals, hands down.
I'm right there with you. I haven't even seen it, and I have no interest in seeing it.
You were about to not, this was going to be there. Okay. This is from now on, any series that you don't want to watch or movies you don't, we're going to call this the Eternals. So Miss Marvel was supposed to be the Eternals. I pulled it out there for you, and then you're like, the last 6 episodes, I'm not going to watch it.
I have watched it just never seemed interested to me. And it was obvious it stands alone. Like, I don't need to go see this. A part of the reason of the draw of going and seeing a lot of the Marvel movies was, well, I don't want to miss out. You know, I want to make sure that I'm seeing the pieces that get tied together. And now you're realizing, no, these all just kind of stand alone.
Yeah. So for my number 5, and I'm really going, I've got these 6 movies laying, it's old school. These Blu-rays are sitting on my desk right now.
Right there with you.
I'm in college. One of these DVDs I'm going to slide into my iMac on a Friday night in college, and I'm going to go lay on my bed and watch one of these 6 films. I'm sorry, it was a hard toss-up. I'm going this movie. Thor. I think that's my number 5 movie in this list. I just generally do not, I have no vested interest in anything other than Christian Bale. I just don't care about anybody's storylines. I don't care about any of the plot lines or experiencing anything. And even it's hard to say I want to line up for more Christian Bale, because it is such a dark, depressing, sad storyline, and sinister and dark. Like, I guess maybe around Halloween time, maybe I'd like sign up for that. So yeah, I'm gonna say number 5 is Thor for me.
Oh, so I just jotted down my list really quickly, and I did not have that. And you do make a very compelling case. I'm gonna stick to what my gut reaction was,
yes,
which is different. But I want to give the caveat that I could see and just give it a month, and I could write a totally different list here. I think, except for I think my number 1 and my number 2 will stay the same, and I think my number 6 will stay the same. 5, 4, and 3 are just kind of. Okay. I don't know. Just kind of depends on where I'm at. I'm gonna put for number 5 Doctor Strange.
Okay.
I walked away from WandaVision really loving and enjoying WandaVision.
I know, right?
I felt like this movie destroyed
her specifically.
Yeah, and WandaVision is so good, and she gave she gives an amazing performance in this. It's just they don't connect. Like, you don't, and maybe we're coming back to it. That's the theme of the Phase 4. I just don't see how any of these things are connecting. I think you've gotten too high on your horse, and you're just like, we can throw money at whatever we want, and it's going to work, and it's going to make tons of money. So let's just do whatever sounds cool. That's what it had some cool moments and everything, but I love Benedict Cumberbatch, but this is by far one of the weaker performances for him. There was just so many little things there. As the longer it's set with me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I have no interest in going back there.
So my number 4 is Doctor Strange. And it's funny, I've been complaining about the multiverse, been complaining about all the things, but I also think the reason it got up to number 4 for me was because Thor, I know exactly what that is. I don't need to see any of it anymore. Like, it's there. It is what it is. You're good to go. There's still so many weird things that happened in the Multiverse of Madness, and so many, I know it's going to be pivotal to all the other things. So that's kind of more why I would rewatch it more often than Thor, just to like, okay, let me rewatch it again now that I I've gotten all my emotional like angst aside, the fact that they killed Wanda, they destroyed her character and stuff and brought it back. There's also a question mark. Is she really dead? Or is that poof, like her poof of red, like her leaving and stuff? You can listen to more of our theories and ideas about that on a previous episode of this, but where we go more in depth. But I think because if I just wanted to spend more time with Wanda, and there's so many random characters that they bring in, the Fantastic Four, Professor X, there's just so many things happening that I think that's what would draw me in to rewatch this sooner than Thor, where it's like, okay, that's it. I can remember what happened. A quick paragraph would tell me everything that I need to know about this. So that's why I have Multiverse of Madness just a little bit higher.
And hear me again. I think my 5, 4, and 3 are pretty interchangeable. They're pretty fluid here. I'm going to give number 4 to Black Widow. I enjoyed Black Widow.
Wow.
You're surprised that it comes in at number 4.
Keep going.
And I literally have it circled with number 3. Because I've put Thor at number 3, but I could easily knock it down. I think Thor is a little higher right now because I've just watched it. It's just right there.
And you did say it was fun. It was
fun. And I'm a sucker for a good acting performance. And I was enthralled with Christian Bale in this. I loved Black Widow. I thought it was fun. It was just a great ride of a movie. My biggest thing is I wish it would have come out earlier. Why did we wait so long to do a Black Widow movie? Because a big part of it is I don't know the stakes of it. It just feels like, well, I already know what's going to happen here. So, but I loved all of the different characters and just the beats and bringing the weird, awkward spy family together. Like, I haven't watched it in a while. I need to go back and rewatch it because it's number 4. It's right in the middle of these for me.
Okay.
You could easily push me up to be number 3.
Okay. My number 3, it's going to be a little bit of I kind of alluded to it a little bit. I'm going to say Spider-Man because of the second reviewing of it. The second rewatching of it was so poor for me that it should have been the number 1 movie. Like, if we're just talking about release day, it was the number 1 film for me. Sure. That I've seen in this MCU, just the experience, watching it in the room, like full crowd. It's the biggest theater, the biggest crowd that I'd been to see a film in 2 years, 3 years, whatever.
2 years.
Maybe even longer than that. Maybe since Rise of Skywalker probably was the last big like film, big. Like packed room. And so if that was the criteria, I probably would have put this one, but that's not the criteria. The criteria is the DVDs are laying out and I'm going to rewatch it. And it just didn't land as well the second time I watched it. And I'm afraid to watch it again because afraid it's going to fall off even more. It was still very heart-wrenching with seeing his Aunt May. Like, she's definitely the like that's one of the biggest moments in that film is when she dies. And I love the fight scene at the end where then Andrew Garfield gets to then save whatever her name. I cannot remember her name for the life of me right now, but
Mary Jane MJ.
He gets to then save MJ. They've got some of those great moments, but overall, like, you're like, where's this going? Oh, it's more multiverse.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Am I that? He's frustrating me that he's like doing all the things wrong when he's like creating the spell. And it seems really easy that the spell is like, hey, we're just doing the spell that's going to change everybody in the world. And you're just like randomly doing this. This kind of is odd. I think it's not, I think that's why it doesn't hold up quite as much, but I enjoyed it and would rewatch it much sooner than I would any Doctor Strange, Thor, or Eternals.
I put Thor as my number 3. Again, I could be very moved on that one. But just
backwards.
fresh where it is right now.
You could be moved backwards on it.
Yes. And I think that honestly, as I look at this, Black Widow could easily pop up to number 3 for me and push Thor down.
My number 2 here, so it's going to reveal a lot. I feel like we should do 2 and 1 at the same time because it's like whatever is 2 is also 1. But
let's just do 2.
So I'm going to say this. There's some movies that maybe the plot's not amazing. Maybe there's some weird special effects things that are happening in here. But you just love the people you're on the ride with. I think that Solo is one of those films that it got bashed, and it set Star Wars movies back half a decade or a decade because they just stopped making standalone films for a while. And then they're like, oh, we have Disney Plus. We need some stuff. Let's resurrect it. Anyways, so there are some films where I just want to be in the room with these people again. And so that's why I have Shang Chi as my number 2. I love the chemistry between the big brother, little brother friendship between Shang-Chi and Awkwafina. I love their chemistry. I love what they're doing together. I love the one-liners. That whole bus scene, the runaway bus scene is incredible. The action in it, I left feeling like this is like one of the best action films I've seen. That was especially because it was all hand-to-hand combat, like almost everything. And I'm a sucker for Japanese culture and all of the martial arts films and stuff like that. I'm a sucker for all of that. So even though some of the dragon stuff was kind of weird, I thought all the rings were super cool. The father maybe wasn't the best bad guy that we've ever seen, especially not compared to Christian Bale. It's not even close. But I liked his journey. I liked his story. And I just would love to spend some more time with Awkwafina and Shang-Chi. So that's why I have it at number 2.
Well, my number 2 is going to reveal a lot. My number 2 is Spiderman. No Way Home.
Okay.
So I've gone back. I love No Way Home. Because it pulls on all the nostalgia. Like I loved Tobey Maguire in the first 2.
We're not going to count number 3. This is his best performance as Spider-Man.
It really is. And
it's not saying a lot, but it's his best performance as Spider-Man.
My favorite Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield. I love the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Those are the Spider-Man movies I have seen the most and go back to and will watch moments, enjoy it. So to have him come back in that, absolutely loved it. And we've already gushed about Willem Dafoe in this. It's, to me, I still think it's a fun ride, and it's number 2 for me. Spider-Man No Way Home is number 2.
Just want to give a shout out to the best special effects sound choice in maybe all of film lore is the sound effect when MJ hits the ground in the Andrew Garfield second one.
Well, that'd be Gwen Stacy.
Gwen Stacy, sorry. When Gwen Stacy hits the ground, the sound effect for her hitting was the most perfect sound effect ever. It was soul crushing. It wasn't overloaded. It was just pop. And it was just like, she's gone. It's it.
I bawled my eyes out like a little child in that movie when that happened for the first time. And I think that's it. Oh man, I love that we're jumping all the way back to the Amazing Spider-Man 2. In these movies, there has to be stakes.
There does.
For these to work, for us to feel the absurdity that is superhero movies, there has to be stakes. And I think that's part of what you feel nowadays is there aren't stakes. I mean, go back to Thor Love and Thunder, like, oh, Zeus didn't really die. Well,
yeah.
Then what's the
just
point?
Kidding. A lightning bolt to the chest doesn't do anything to him.
Yeah, then what's the point? Yeah. So I love that moment. because it's so heart-wrenching. And what's so crazy is that moment is so heart-wrenching and so powerful that it resonates in a totally different Spider-Man's movie.
Yep.
That moment when he saves MJ in No Way Home,
it's like
I went right back. I felt it all over again. Yeah. So I mean, it's just such a one, and that's part of the reason why I love Spider-Man No Way Home so much is seeing the three of them together, like seeing them in the lab doing experiments together.
All of that's great. All of that's great. Playing off of each other when they do, like, yes. Mm-hmm.
And so it just elevates it to much higher. So that means for you, number one,
Black Widow. That's why I gave a visible. That's why I gave a visible. When you had Black Widow at 35th or whatever number you had it at
4. Okay, maybe
that's why I was
3.
like, all the rest of them, I kept my composure, but this one was like 4. This was, so I'm just gonna say it might have been because of the fact that we all we had from Marvel was a year of shows.
Sure.
Lower end graphic shows. Like the highlight might have been the space flying inside of Falcon and the Winter Soldier when they're like that opening scene where they're like going through the air, and like that was probably the most spectacle that we got.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're in a giant, like basically floating city building falling through the sky and you're seeing them go through all of that was incredible. The family dynamic was so much fun. Every time the 4 of them were in the room together was on another level of just fun and enjoy. I wanted to be around those people. Obviously, I love Stranger Things, so seeing the dad in there and all the things he does. Yeah. But really what stole the show is Scarlett Johansson's sister in this film. She I was not prepared for how funny she was. Her timing was impeccable. She's then gone on to steal the show inside of Hawkeye. But like when she describes like why she can't have children to him, it's like so graphic, and I'm just like dying laughing when she does when she's like, oh, and she's like can't, and when the whole combating each other with the whole you're a poser stuff. There was so many great characters and moments, and I was so bought in, loved it. You felt that sense of like, oh, the Red Room and what it did. The montage for the title sequence, heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching, and the using sounds like Team Spirit. It was a great film, and it came off of where we just had like, oh, we kind of talked ourselves into, oh, these Marvel series are pretty good, and then you watch an actual Marvel feature film and you're like, oh, they have another gear. They have a completely other gear that they're not using on these shows. And so that's why for me, and plus Scarlett Johansson's great. So that's why I said it was number 1.
You've convinced me. I'm going to officially make the move.
From 35 to 33?
No, I still, it's not in 1 or 2 for me, but it's definitely, I'm going to move it up to 3rd and push Thor down to 4.
You can't change it, Eddie. You've already committed. You've already committed on this podcast. Just like I've already committed that Miss Marvel.
You've said this is our podcast. It's our rules. We can do whatever we want. I'm moving it. No, it is probably the one that I've thought back. Oh man, I really want to go back and rewatch that. I really want to go back and rewatch that. And for whatever reason, I have not been able to do that.
It partially because it's a standalone film. Like it's a prequel to her life, and we already know what happens to her and where she comes in. It's like, yeah.
And I guess that, and that's what I said when I initially brought it up was, I just wish they would have made this movie sooner. But her in the first Avengers movie, like the way she gets Bruce Banner, the way there's so many great moments in that. I think she's one of my favorites in the original Avengers movie. Like, yeah, it's just so fantastic. And I think we see that wit and that sarcasm come out Yeah, you're getting me there. My number one is Shang Chi. It had been a long time since I had gone on such a fun adventure in a Marvel movie like that, where everything felt original and new. The fight sequences are incredible, and you are totally right. That bus sequence is incredible. So good. I've gone back and just watched that segment before. I've watched so many of like the behind the scenes makings and that whole sequence. This is probably, of all of the movies in the Phase 4, the one that I've gone back and rewatched the most, just because enjoyed it. Great. Everything. It just hits it. And you're right. Like the whole dynamic of the two of them is so good. And even all of the other supporting actors and characters who come into this. And I didn't mind the dragon stuff. Like even as we got to it at the end, like I could feel like, okay, we're gonna pop into that level of the Asian fantasies.
Yeah.
And I was ready. I was like, yep, let's just do it. I'm there. I'm good to go. Yeah, Shang-Chi. I don't even think it was any bit of a doubt for me that this was. It's been my favorite of the whole Phase 4.
I just wish the bad guy was like, I know that he was sinister or whatever, but I wanted a little bit more from the bad guy. That's my go-to of like, how good is the bad guy in these films? I wanted a little bit more from him, but can't get everything you want.
Can't get everything.
Can't get everything you want.